Since you were born, the world has been telling you a lie. They taught you to cling to your possessions, your relationships, your image, and the identity you believe defines you. They convinced you that the more you have, the more you are. But the truth is harsh and uncomfortable. Here you are, trapped in the worst prison of all, the belief that you need what you possess to exist. No one told you that nothing you own truly belongs to you. Not your money, your status, your partner, or even your name. Everything can be taken from you in an instant. Attachment disguises itself as love, security, and stability, but it's none of those things. It's actually a subtle form of slavery that seeps into your life and controls every decision you make. Carl Jung saw it clearly: people don't cling to what they love, they cling to what they believe defines them. Attachment is the desperate cry of an ego terrified of vanishing. You don't obsess over your partner out of pure love, you fear what's left of you without them. The same goes for that job you say you love. Is it really happiness or just the fear of losing the identity that comes with it? We live in a world where attachment has become identity, and detachment is seen as a threat. Think about it. Who are you when everything is taken away? That question is uncomfortable because it confronts you with your greatest fear, yourself, stripped of roles, possessions, and external validation. This is where the system steps in. It conditions you to cling to things, people, and ideas, because a mind that's attached is easy to control. If you fear losing what you love, you comply. If your status is threatened, you submit. Attachment is the perfect control mechanism. A slave with visible chains might rebel, but someone who believes their chains are part of who they are, never will. Look around. Society encourages eternal commitments, celebrates marriages that sometimes become legal cages, and promotes the obsession with accumulating and defining yourself by what you own. You think that's a coincidence? It's not. It's a calculated strategy. Someone afraid of losing is easy to predict, easy to manipulate. If you know what a person fears losing, you know how to control them. So I ask you, what holds you down? Is it your job? Your relationship? Your public image? Your beliefs? Whatever it is, that's exactly what could be used against you. Real detachment isn't about being indifferent, it's about absolute freedom, the kind where nothing can control you. It means living in this world without being owned by it. Loving without needing. Having without being possessed by what you have. Sounds simple, right? But breaking those bonds is far from easy. Attachment isn't just a habit, it's part of your identity. Letting go feels like something inside you is dying. And yes, it hurts. That's why so few people succeed. To be truly free, you must let parts of yourself die, the parts that cling, that fear, that define you by what you own. If you don't, you'll live with an invisible rope around your neck, vulnerable to anyone who pulls on your fears. How many strings control your puppet? How many of those strings are you ready to cut? Attachment isn't just a mental trap, it's a drug, the most addictive one there is. Unlike substances that alter your chemistry, attachment distorts your entire reality. Do you really love people, or do you love what they represent to you? Are you afraid of losing your belongings, or are you afraid of losing the story they tell about you? Your identity is a puzzle made of poorly managed attachments. Jung warned us, what you lack within yourself, you seek outside. Without inner control, you'll cling to anything that gives you temporary meaning, ideologies, toxic relationships, false senses of security. And each of those attachments can become a leash for someone else to pull. Look at politics, religion, and rigid communities, they don't aim to free you. They offer you something to cling to. Why? Because a person without attachment is uncontrollable. What rules the world isn't loyalty, it's fear disguised as loyalty. Fear of loss, of loneliness, of not being enough. And fear is the most effective tool of control ever invented. But don't mistake detachment for coldness. It's not about shutting off your emotions, it's about ensuring that nothing and no one has the power to break you. The true rulers of the world aren't those who have the most, they're the ones who aren't afraid to lose everything. History proves it. Alexander the Great conquered without fearing death. Buddha left behind a palace after realizing wealth meant nothing. Nietzsche spoke of the Übermensch, the kind of person who frees themselves from their chains and shapes their own destiny. Detachment isn't about running away from society or isolating yourself in a cave searching for inner peace. It's about moving through chaos without letting the chaos consume you. Reaching that level isn't easy, it's a brutal journey. It requires destroying the version of yourself you think you are, tearing down the identity built on attachments you've carried for a lifetime. Your ego, that voice inside saying, I am this, or I need that, is nothing more than the sum of all your attachments. Breaking it is like ripping out a part of yourself. That's why it hurts so much. And that pain is what makes most people give up. But if you don't face it, you'll spend your life vulnerable to anyone who knows how to pull the right strings. Here's the harsh truth: attachment wears disguises. It hides under what you call virtues. You say you value stability, but deep down, you fear change. You claim you love your partner, but maybe you're just terrified of being alone. You fight for what you think is justice, but perhaps you're seeking validation. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the dark part of you that you refuse to see. Inside that shadow lie all the attachments you've dressed up as noble causes. Facing it is like looking into a mirror that shows you not the version of yourself you want to see, but the raw, unfiltered truth. Arthur Schopenhauer put it bluntly: suffering doesn't come from what you lack, it comes from the desire to possess. His solution? Eliminate desire. But ask yourself, is that living? Is numbing your hunger for life truly the answer? No. Desire isn't the enemy. Being enslaved by it is. The goal isn't to extinguish your passions, it's to harness them. Desire can be your greatest fuel, if you're the one driving. The Stoics understood part of this. They believed the path to peace was expecting nothing and accepting everything. Does that help avoid pain? Sure. But does it let you take control of your destiny? Not always. True detachment isn't passive acceptance, it's active mastery. It's not about dulling your emotions but steering them towards something greater. Imagine standing in a storm, not cowering, not running, but standing tall because you know the storm can't break you. Look at history's game changers. Nikola Tesla wasn't indifferent, he was obsessed with his ideas. Leonardo da Vinci wasn't passive, he was consumed by a relentless curiosity. Napoleon didn't conquer Europe by being moderate, he burned with ambition. These people weren't free from desire. They were free from being controlled by it. That's the crucial difference: either you wield your desire, or it wields you. But here's the ultimate challenge: letting go isn't just about releasing what hurts you, it's about releasing what you love. That's the real test. Can you appreciate something fully without needing to own it? Can you love deeply without gripping it with fear? Because nothing is truly yours. Your relationships, your possessions, your achievements, they can all vanish. And when they do, who remains? If your sense of worth collapses with their absence, then you never truly owned yourself. The person who can lose everything and still stand unshaken, that's someone who has found real power. Picture this: walking through life with nothing weighing you down. Loving people without trying to cage them. Working toward your goals without tying your identity to success or failure. Enjoying what you have without fearing its loss. That's not emptiness, that's freedom. That's the kind of detachment that turns your life into something extraordinary. The world doesn't know how to handle people like that. The system is built to exploit your fears, to make you chase things you think you need. What if you lose your job? What if they leave you? What if you fail? Fear is the currency of control. But once you face those questions and answer with, "then I'll be fine anyway," you become untouchable. Yes, letting go leaves an empty space, and emptiness scares people. Most rush to fill it with distractions, new relationships, mindless entertainment, material things. Anything to avoid sitting with that void. But the brave ones, they sit. They breathe. They feel the emptiness until they realize something incredible, that emptiness isn't the absence of something. It's the space where everything becomes possible. It's not there to swallow you, it's there to free you. Friedrich Nietzsche understood it. He said that when you gaze long into the abyss gazes back. But if you hold that gaze, if you don't flinch, you realize the abyss isn't some external threat. It's you. Without distractions. Without masks. Pure, unfiltered existence. And if you can face that, you can face anything. Most people believe that detachment means losing interest, becoming cold, or physically distancing yourself from things. They think it's about shutting down emotionally, practicing indifference. But that's a misconception. Detachment isn't about disconnecting from life, it's about being so fully present that you no longer need to cling to anything to feel complete. Real detachment is absolute control over yourself. It's not about escaping emotions but ensuring that nothing and no one has the power to destabilize you. It means facing what you fear to lose the most and asking, what if I do lose it? And realizing that, even then, you remain whole. Imagine loving someone with your whole heart, but without needing them to feel fulfilled. Imagine having success and wealth, but if it all vanished tomorrow, you'd still stand tall. That is true power. Because when nothing can shake you, you become immune to manipulation. Society, the system, other people, they all lose their grip on you. How do you control someone who isn't afraid of losing? You don't. That's why true detachment is feared and suppressed. A person without attachments is unpredictable, unstoppable. Look at the world. Those who cling the hardest are often the easiest to control. The person terrified of losing their job will endure mistreatment without question. The one afraid of being alone will stay in toxic relationships just to avoid solitude. The individual desperate to maintain their reputation will betray themselves for public approval. And the system? It feeds on those fears. It shows you what you might lose and waits for you to comply. But when you cut those strings, when you can look at something you value and say, I can let you go and still be me, you reclaim your freedom. But don't misunderstand, detachment doesn't mean renouncing life or ambitions. It's not about becoming a monk on a mountaintop. It's about engaging with the world fully, but without letting external outcomes define your internal state. Love passionately, but don't let the fear of loss hold you back. Chase your dreams, but don't hinge your self-worth on success. Enjoy what you have, but know you'll be okay without it. That's the essence. So how do you get there? How do you let go of what feels like a part of you? Start by confronting your fears. Ask yourself repeatedly, what if I lose this? Who am I without it? Sit with the discomfort. It'll feel like a piece of you is being torn away, but with each layer that falls, you'll find a deeper truth: you are more than what you hold on to. You are what remains when all else is stripped away. There's a paradox here: the more you let go, the more you truly enjoy. Why? Because you're no longer paralyzed by the fear of losing. You can love without attachment, work without desperation, live without that constant undercurrent of anxiety. And ironically, life tends to flow more smoothly when you stop clinging. Relationships deepen when you stop suffocating them with need. Work becomes more fulfilling when you're not chained to the outcome. Life itself becomes lighter. Yes, the emptiness you feel when you let go can be terrifying. People often scramble to fill it, with distractions, new possessions, or fleeting relationships, anything to avoid facing that void. But if you dare to stay there, in that uncomfortable silence, you'll discover something extraordinary: that emptiness isn't nothingness. It's space, space for peace, authenticity, and genuine self-discovery. The void isn't there to devour you, it's there to free you. Nietzsche understood this. He said, if you gaze long enough into the abyss gazes back at you. Most people read that as a warning, but it's also an invitation. When you hold that gaze, when you confront your own emptiness, you realize that abyss isn't a threat. It's the reflection of yourself without masks, without distractions. Pure existence. Raw, honest being. And here's the kicker, once you face that void, nothing scares you anymore. You stop fearing loss, rejection, or failure because you've already met the deepest fear, the fear of being nothing, and found that you're still here. Still standing. Still you. So, what happens when you no longer fear loss? You become unbreakable. The system can't control you. People's opinions lose their power over you. Circumstances can change, fortunes can rise and fall, but you remain constant. Imagine walking through life with that kind of stability. Loving people fully without needing to own them. Pursuing goals without being enslaved by them. Living each moment as it is, without clinging to it or pushing it away. That's the freedom detachment offers. What terrifies people the most about detachment is the emptiness it leaves behind. When you let go of what you thought defined you, your possessions, roles, and relationships, you face a vast nothingness. And that nothingness is frightening. Who are you without your job title? Without your partner? Without the beliefs you've clung to your whole life? Most people glimpse that emptiness and recoil. They rush back to what's familiar, to the things that make them feel safe, even if those things are cages. But the brave ones, they stay. They sit with that emptiness. They breathe through it. And what they discover is something few ever dare to: the emptiness isn't the end. It's the beginning. Nietzsche captured this perfectly when he said, when you gaze long into the abyss gazes back at you. People often read that as a warning. But if you stand your ground, if you don't flinch under the abyss's gaze, you'll see something astonishing. The abyss isn't your enemy, it's your own reflection. It's you, stripped of all the labels, distractions, and attachments. And if you can face that raw version of yourself without running, you find freedom. Because once you've looked into that emptiness and realized you're still here, still standing, you become unstoppable. When you have nothing to lose, nothing can control you. That's exactly why the system fears people who detach. How do you manipulate someone who doesn't fear loss? You can't. You can't threaten a person who knows that their worth isn't tied to external things. When you reach that point, you become unpredictable, untouchable. And that's dangerous for a world built on control through fear. The system thrives on your attachments, on your fear of losing status, relationships, comfort. But when you cut those cords, the system's grip slips away. Imagine walking through life without that constant anxiety about, what if I lose this? Imagine loving someone so deeply, but knowing that if they leave, you'll be okay. Working hard for your goals, but not tying your identity to the outcome. That's not coldness, it's the purest form of love and engagement. Because when you love without attachment, you love freely. When you work without desperation, you give your best without draining yourself. When you live without clinging, you breathe easier. You move lighter. But don't be fooled, getting there isn't easy. Letting go of attachment is like peeling away layers of your skin. It hurts. It feels like you're losing parts of yourself. But what's being stripped away isn't you, it's the illusion of you. The false identities built around possessions, roles, and validations. And yes, there will be moments when the old fears creep back in. That's normal. The mind loves the familiar, even when it's painful. But every time you catch yourself clinging, every time you feel that panic of, what if this goes away? Pause. Breathe. Remind yourself, nothing I lose can take away who I am. That's the core truth the world doesn't want you to realize. Real power isn't about accumulating more, it's about needing less. The fewer attachments you have, the freer you become. And here's the paradox: the moment you stop clinging, life starts flowing toward you. Opportunities arise effortlessly. Relationships deepen because you're no longer suffocating them with need. You enjoy what you have more because you're not gripped by the fear of losing it. Ironically, by letting go, you gain everything. Look at those who have truly mastered this. They move through the world with a calm that's unshakable. Success or failure doesn't rattle them. Praise or criticism rolls off their backs. They know that external things come and go, but their center remains untouched. That's what it means to be free, not that life stops challenging you, but that nothing outside of you can destroy your peace. So ask yourself, what are you clinging to? What are you terrified to lose? Your job? Your relationship? Your reputation? Whatever it is, that's your chain. That's what holds you back. And the key to unlocking it? Letting go. Not in bitterness or avoidance, but in understanding that your worth isn't tied to anything external. Imagine the freedom of knowing that if everything crumbled around you, you'd still be whole. That's what detachment offers. It's not about abandoning life, it's about embracing it fully without being enslaved by it. Love deeply, work passionately, live fully, but be ready to let it all go at a moment's notice without losing yourself. And when you reach that level of freedom, something incredible happens. Life no longer feels like a struggle. It becomes a dance. You stop grasping and start flowing. You stop fearing and start living. So, what's holding you back? What's that thing you're afraid to release? Let it go. Not because you have to lose it, but because you don't need it to be whole. When you realize that, you'll understand something the most powerful people in the world have always known: true strength isn't in holding on, it's in being able to walk away with peace in your heart. The freedom of detachment isn't just a concept. It's an experience. And once you taste it, you'll never want to go back. Let go. Live free.